in the quiet, snow-covered fields of Bavaria. Just beyond the village of Gribern stood a lonely farmstead known to locals as Hinterkaifeck. Today, the name means little to most, but in the spring of 1922, it became the site of one of the most horrifying and perplexing crimes in German history. 6 people, an entire family and their maid, were slaughtered in cold blood with a farm tool. The killer was never caught. There were no firm leads. And to this day, the case remains one of the darkest mysteries of 20th century Europe. This is not just a story of murder, it's a story of fear, superstition, suspicion, and silence. It's a window into a rural world on the cusp of modernity, yet still gripped by the shadows of old folklore. This is the chilling tale of the Hinterkaifeck murders. The farm at Hinterkaifeck was home to 6 people. Andreas Gruber, a stern, 63-year-old patriarch with a reputation for cruelty. His wife, Cecilia, 72, quiet and withdrawn. Their daughter, Victoria Gabriel, recently widowed after her husband died in World War I. She was 35 and lived on the farm with her 2 children, 7-year-old Cecilia, named after her grandmother, and 2-year-old Joseph. On the day of the murders, a new maid, 44-year-old Maria Baumgartner, had just arrived to start work. She would barely have time to unpack her things. The Grubers were a reserved, somewhat isolated family. They didn't have many friends in the village. Some neighbors whispered about their harsh ways, while others avoided the family entirely. Rumors circulated that Andreas had an incestuous relationship with his daughter. Victorian local court records showed that both had been convicted for such an offense years earlier. It was a shameful, scandalous situation, and one that led many to believe something evil festered behind the walls of that farmhouse. In the days leading up to the massacre, several eerie events unfolded. Andreas began telling neighbors about strange footprints in the snow tracks that led from the forest to the house, but none that led away. Then came the sound of footsteps in the attic. He searched the upper rooms with a lantern, but found nothing. Doors that were locked the night before were discovered open in the morning. A set of keys went missing. Mysterious newspapers showed up that no one in the house had purchased. And yet, despite these unsettling signs, the Grubers chose to stay. One of their previous maids had already quit the year before, claiming the house was haunted. She had heard footsteps, voices, and sensed an invisible presence watching her. Her replacement, Maria Baumgartner, was sent by her sister on March 31st, unaware of the danger she was stepping into. That night, something terrible happened. While the exact timeline remains uncertain, investigators believe that Andreas was lured into the barn first, perhaps by a noise or a false alarm. There, he was struck in the head with a mattock, a brutal farming tool similar to a pickaxe. His wife followed, then Victoria and young daughter. Each was killed with precision and unimaginable force. Inside the house, the killer entered Maria Baumgartner's room and killed her in her bed just hours after she had arrived. 2-year-old Joseph was murdered in his cot, smothered or struck with the same weapon. The killer showed no mercy. Yet the most disturbing detail was not the violence, it was what happened afterward. For days, someone stayed at Hinterkaifeck. The cows were milked. The fireplace was warm. Meals were eaten. The dog was fed. Smoke rose from the chimney, but no one in the nearby villages saw the family. No one suspected the horror that lay just behind the frosted windows. On April 4th, several concerned neighbors, having noticed the family's absence at church and the children's failure to attend school, decided to investigate. What they found was a scene of nightmare. In the barn, the bodies of Andreas, Cecilia Sr., Victoria, and young Cecilia were stacked on top of each other and covered in hay. Inside the house, Maria's body lay bloodied in her bed, and little Joseph's was found nearby. The local police were summoned immediately, but they were woefully unequipped for such a crime. Over the following days, Hundreds of people, including curious villagers, trampled through the scene, contaminating what little evidence there was. Even the autopsies were performed in the barn itself. The case triggered the largest criminal investigation in Bavarian history at the time. Over 100 suspects were interviewed. One name stood out: Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a neighbor and former lover of Victoria. Some said he was the father of Joseph, although others believed Andreas Gruber himself may have been the boy's true parent. Lorenz was among the first to discover the bodies, but his behavior raised eyebrows. He unlocked doors that should have been bolted shut. His calmness unsettled many. But there were no confessions, no fingerprints, no reliable witnesses. Some believed the killer had lived in the attic for days, watching and waiting. Others suggested a former prisoner of war, or a drifter seeking revenge. A few more imaginative theories involved the occult, secret lovers, or even Victoria's rumored connections to a local church choir with dark secrets. In 2007, German police reopened the case using modern profiling techniques. They publicly claimed they had a prime suspect, though they refused to reveal the name out of respect for surviving relatives. Still, the case was officially closed once again, with no charges ever filed. The farm was eventually demolished in 1923. Nothing remains there now except a small memorial shrine. But the story of Hinterkaifeck lives on in books, documentaries, podcasts, and the memories of those who still whisper the tale. It's not just the savagery of the murders that captures our imagination, it's the silence that followed, the fact that someone could commit such horrors and then calmly tend to the chores as if nothing had happened. It's the footprints in the snow, the attic creaks, the stolen keys. The idea that the killer may have watched the family for days waiting for the right moment. To this day, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain a haunting mystery. A cruel reminder that evil can hide in plain sight, and sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we never see coming.